This is Big T, Little T, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 57. Today we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things. First, we're going to be talking about episode 5 of season 1, Bad Batch, Rampage. We got to talk about a little about Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, and Lego Masters just came to Fox, and it's starting season 2. So we got a lot to unpack today. So, fortunately, Little T couldn't join me today, but we are going to get right into it. So, Memorial Day weekend was this past weekend, so I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. And as well, thank you to all the many people that have served our country for our freedoms. We really appreciate that, and did a lot of yard work, man. It was crazy. So we're building a garden kind of thing and started doing a bunch of stuff and hauled a bunch of dirt and a bunch of mulch, and we just got more mulch and dirt delivered today, so we're constantly fixing up the backyard, but it's fun. So Trent and I did that, and he helped me a lot. And then we also did he calls it bit by bit, but basically he wanted to do a little stop motion with his dinosaurs, and so we started doing that. We did a little project, hopefully get that up pretty soon, but essentially just trying to do a little stop motion with his dinosaurs and action figures. So that was a lot of fun. He got to understand what it takes to do that, and it's a lot of patience, and so I have more and more appreciation for all the stop motion, and especially Empire with the AT-ATs. I just still can't believe that's all stop motion. But we had fun doing that, and probably took like 200 pictures for like 8 seconds of film. But it was a lot of fun, and should be posting up very soon. But we got other things going on. Lego Masters just came to Fox. If you're not familiar with that, it's essentially getting the best of the best in Lego Masters, and they have a show, and Will Arnett is the co-host or the host, and then he has Jamie and Amy that are like these brick masters from Lego that help kind of judge everything, and it's very cool. The season premiere was tonight or Tuesday, June the 1st, and so it was the theme was dream parks, and so they did like these kind of dream park it's almost kind of like what we call it, a parade, and you would just like, okay, here's the best things you got to do for your parade, and so they had to come up with these floats, and so it was kind of cool just seeing all that crazy stuff, which was fantastic. But yeah, it was the Lego City Parade, which was the first season, which was a lot of fun, and got to meet all the contestants. And there's a great group, a lot of different people. But yeah, it was a lot of fun watching that, and always. I think the cool thing about Lego is that there's always imagination going on, and you can do anything, and they have like 5 million bricks at their disposal, so there's a lot of great stuff there. So we're super excited for that to come back. I think it's going to be like 10 episodes maybe, I'm not really sure, but yeah, it looks really cool. Again, no one was eliminated. There's 12 teams, 12 couples of brother, sister, husband, wife, father, son, all this kind of stuff. So kind of cool, different combinations, and looking to see what they can build. So yeah, that's a lot of fun, and we really enjoy that as a family. Next up was, okay, so last week we talked about Camp Cretaceous, and so if you're not watching Netflix, the new Netflix show of Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, you are definitely missing out. It is amazing. It is a kids program, but essentially it is the best thing ever, and I really just enjoy everything that it is doing, and yeah, it is super cool. And so we talked about that last week. We stopped only obviously with Netflix show, they give you the whole all the episodes, and so we did the first 4, and it took great control to stop there, and so we reviewed that last week. So if you haven't, catch out that, but so we started watching, picking up where we left off with episode 4, and then we're going into episode 5, and I was really hoping we would probably just do like 3 or 4, but we just can't stop, won't stop, and essentially we finished the season last week. We couldn't contain ourselves, and it delivered. It's so good storytelling, which I really 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 enjoy, and even though it's kid centric, there are some adult themes in there as far as just, as they're kind of growing up and getting tossed in this world. There's a lot that they have to kind of discover themselves, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so when we left off, Darius, Kenji, and Yaz found the old visitation center of Jurassic World, and we got to meet Blue, and we got the Scorpio Rex like doing their thing, and it's kind of crazy. And Blue came to the rescue, and we got through that. Oof. And so now they're basically, this is called the Eye of the Storm, and Sam and Brooklyn rush to warn others about a sinister new threat, which is this Scorpius Rex thing that is just crazy. And essentially Darius kind of goes on this little side trip for his dad's favorite dinosaur. He never really got to go there. And so he leaves Kenji in charge of the camp and tries to get supplies and all this stuff. But then they find out that the big bad monster is there. It's kind of crazy. So they get to that's an okay episode, but the next episode is really really when it picks up. And so essentially the Scorpius Rex is meaner. It's just a mean dinosaur, and it's kind of like, I would say, a cross between Indominus Rex and our Indoraptor that we see in Fallen World. But it's really its own little creature. It's kind of quirky. It looks kind of like a small T-Rex, and it's got these kind of prickly things. And it's kind of creepy. And so they essentially set up the camp with electric-type fence. It actually attracts the dinosaur, and they don't know what to do. In the midst of the battle, so in the midst of the battle, essentially, Sammy gets hit by like a needle, and like on her side, and she is poisoned, and it's all this crazy stuff. And so Yaz has to go back to the lab to get the antidote, to find the antidote, because it's crazy. And this is a really powerful episode. Essentially, Sammy is essentially dying, and Yaz is reflecting on their time at the camp and how Sammy never gave up on her, and so Yaz is not going to give up on her. And of course, one of the dinosaurs, the Scorpius Rex, shows up, and it's kind of crazy. She reaches back, gets back in there, finally gets the antidote, and it's pretty intense, and that's called the long run. And then 7 is a shock to the system, and so they have to get to the boat. The boat's still in play, but then Ben kind of disappears, and so when he left the first time, he was scared. He was mad that he was miffed that Bumpy left him, or he left Bumpy, and so he wants to stay back. And Darius is like, "No, you're coming with us." And there's this kind of fight, not really a fight, but essentially Darius is like, "Hey, you got to come back with us," and Ben doesn't want to. And actually, Darius almost falls, but Ben comes and saves him, and then he's like, "Okay, well, if that's your decision, I respect that, but you got to tell everybody else." So pretty cool episode. Kind of, again, like these kind of adult things about friendships and trying to understand what Ben wants. And so so there's obviously now they're trying to escape from the island, and he essentially, this one is crazy. He is trying to, they're all trying to get back, get to the boat, figure out what to do, and there's still a lot of things in play that need to happen to make them to get off the boat or get off the island, and they find out that essentially now there are 2 dinosaurs that are Scorpius Rex, not just one, because they are understanding that there is 2 of them, and it's not cool. So then the next 2 episodes are kind of the conclusion, obviously. So it says whatever it takes, and so they get off the boat. Hooray, they're there. And then Ben decides to come with them, which is great. But then a helicopter shows up, and they basically go back to dock. They go back to the dock, and the familiar T-Rex shows up and kind of puts a kibosh to the rescue plan, eats a couple of the army dudes, and we find out that our familiar doctor is looking for his laptop, and so Dr. Wu, so he has this essentially entourage trying to get back to the island because all his research is on this laptop. He needs it and needs to do more evil plans and all that kind of fun stuff. And so, it's pretty interesting. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but you have to essentially. It's a great thing, and essentially the last episode is very good. I'm not gonna go into too much details, but you have to see this. It's so much fun. I really enjoyed it. Trent and I just ate it up. So yeah, we watched the first 4, and then we had to get through the 6, and it was just fantastic. So check if you haven't done it. Check it out, Camp Cretaceous. It's so cool. Okay, so we got. And so Bad Batch is now on episode 5, and which is really cool about Bad Batch is that it is, we're following our rogue clone troopers here, and now they're on the run. And so if you're not caught up, essentially they're on the run. They have limited supplies. And they're finding out that even though the galaxy is a very big place, the Empire is already kind of reaching its grasp around the galaxy. And the first thing is this chain code initiative, which essentially is making sure that the chain codes are essentially identification number for the Empire. And so we have that going on, which is putting the constraints on essentially people to freely roam the galaxy and saying, hey, you're registered, this is what planet you're from, this is where you live, all this kind of stuff. They explored a little bit about that in last week's episode, where they get to, it's not Pandora, or it's Patoon, or whatever, they get to the planet, and they're looking for supplies, and they see a parade of clone troopers, and the crowd's cheering, and Omega's kind of like, well, what are they cheering for? And he's like, well, the war's over. And they're both like, well, is it? And again, the response back is like, well, it depends on what side you're on. So it's pretty deep. I think they're just trying to survive at this point. And so when we pick up this episode, the official description for this is the Batch just strikes a deal to take on a mission. And so essentially they go to the planet Ord Mantell. And so Ord Mantell is one of those kind of, if you're a Star Wars scholar, if you watch the movies, this is name dropped a couple different times, but essentially Han Solo's like, well, the bounty hunter that I met on Ord Mantell changed my mind, and so this is referenced in Empire and is explored. I believe that is explored in the Marvel comics before, like we're talking like 79, 80s, and what the bounty hunter is. the name is escaping me, but he's like a green dude or whatever. But essentially, this is just another like kind of Star Wars lore that we actually get to see now. Get to see Planicide with the Ord Mantell, which is kind of cool. And essentially, they're looking for a contact named Sid. And Sid is at this bar. They reach out to Sid, who is a Trushendon, which is the same species as Basque. So lizard, kind of reptilian person. And they can't figure out, but Omega figures out that Sid kind of pushes them off, like, hey, I don't know what who you're talking about or what you're talking about. And essentially what we get is Omega figuring this out and say, hey, that's Sid. And so this is kind of this is a simple, this is definitely a video game trope. It's like, you do this mission and I will get you this item, and essentially that's what is happening here, which is so fun. It's Sid's like, hey, you have to rescue this person, and then I will be able to get you a contact, because essentially what they're trying to do is find out who the bounty hunter is. We, the audience, know that it's Fennec Shand, but they're trying to find out a little more information about Fennec, and so they have to use these means like Sid to get this information. And so so they essentially bargain and say, okay, you find the kid is Muchi, you got to find this kid Muchi, and they're with these Zygerian, I think I'm saying that right, Zygerian slavers. And so Zygerians we have seen in the Clone Wars, and in fact it's a really powerful episode where Anakin, they kind of go incognito, and they have to rescue Ahsoka, and it's all this kind of, Zygerians are not nice people. They're essentially slavers. And so Anakin really had a problem with the Zygerians, as now he's incognito and kind of hangs out with the Queen, and it really drives him crazy as far as what is happening with these people, and it kind of reminds him of his past. It's this whole thing. So definitely check that out in the Clone Wars. But we've seen Zygerian before. We haven't really seen Ord Mantell too much, but essentially this is kind of a get in, get out, rescue the kid, and get out of there. So they do a little surveillance on the camp that the Zygerians are at, and essentially they see a mom, kind of dad with kid situation, and a couple other people, but they see a kid, and that they're like, yep, that's Mookie. And so they kind of go to, this is the older part of Ord Mantell, and that's where they go. And so essentially the team gets set up. They do kind of Echo is like on scout duty. He kind of goes up top, and then Wrecker and Hunter are there to do the thing, and we got Tech as well. Obviously, they're all there, and essentially we get a little glimpse of a creature, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. They also tell Omega, go back to the ship. This is kind of big boy's business. Don't do that. Omega's not very happy with that, but essentially she understands and wants to follow orders and be a good soldier. And so she goes back to the ship, and they get to see, they get closer to the camp, but there's also this creature that's kind of showing up, and Echo's like, hey, like, what's happening? And essentially this Zygerian creature, I don't even know what kind of creature it is, but essentially it's like a winged lizard thing, and snatches Echo, and kind of calls out this kind of smash and grab kind of process that they're trying to do, and they get caught. So now we're all caught. The winged beast lizard thing is part of the Zygerian king or king slave person or whatever you want to call him. And so essentially, Omega's in a ship, and the Zygerians go back on two speeders, kind of figure out here's their ship. They do a quick search. Omega hides and is able to not get caught, which is great. And Gonki's there, but Gonki turns so funny. Gonki turns into almost a trash can, which is pretty much what Gonki is. But yeah, it's kind of cool. So they are now trapped. Omega shows up, and so she's trying to do a little infiltrator herself, and the team recognizes it. They try to guide her to where their weapon cache is, and this is where it gets fun. So essentially, Mookie is not this falling girl that they see. Mookie is none other than a Rancor. So there's a Rancor trapped in this cage. Omega realizes this creature, and essentially, before she gets captured, unlocks the pin of the cage, and we have this baby Rancor, and that is Mookie. And so, and this is where the name comes from Rampage. Also, not to be confused with the movie with The Rock or the video game Rampage, but essentially, the Rancor, the baby Rancor, goes on a little tear. He's probably 6-something, probably 7 foot. So he's a small little guy, but essentially packs a punch, and wreaks havoc on the Zygerians and does all his little things as a Rancor would do, jumping and slashing and biting the Zygerian beast and all this kind of stuff. The clones are a good Bad Batch gets their tech. They get the couple with the child off to safety, give them the speeder bikes, get them off, which is great. But now they have to control the area. They get the Zygerians under control, and now it's Mookie that they have to control, and that's where Wrecker comes in. So Wrecker and him essentially are establishing dominance, and they have this fight, and they cannot go any further, and essentially Wrecker wins, which is great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we get to see that play out, and essentially Wrecker and Mookie are exhausted, and Mookie subsides and says, okay, you're good. So now they tame the beast, they get they get Mookie, and essentially they go back to Sid and say, okay, hey, you could have told me that it was a Rancor. Obviously, she wouldn't have done that, which is awesome here. Here's the Easter egg or whatever. The client who put out this bounty or request is none other than Bib Fortuna. Bib, we have seen Bib before, and that is obviously Jabba's right-hand man. I think they call him like a Mojo Dodo or a Mojo. I don't know. It's some Star Wars name again. I'm not sure. But essentially, Bib Fortuna is happy because, this actually replaces the other Rancor that a certain Jedi, Luke Skywalker, took out. And so Jabba is going to be really happy with Mookie. And so Mookie is reunited with Bib Fortuna, and we got to see 2 more Gamorrean guards. We love our piggy guards. So they do the job, and then now this is where Sid provides information to them, essentially explaining that they encountered Fennec Shand, which we knew, but now they know, and essentially it's saying it was direct commission. Sid doesn't know who actually put out the hit for this, but it was through the Bounty Hunters Guild, so it's like legit. So here's where it's kind of interesting, where